Oh my gosh, the drama surrounding Jay-Z and Diddy just keeps getting more explosive by the minute. And honey, you're gonna need a fire extinguisher for this one. I'm talking about allegations that are shaking the entire entertainment industry to its core. Let me break down this piping hot mess that's getting messier than a toddler eating spaghetti. There's this lawsuit involving Jay-Z and Diddy that allegedly involves them forcing themselves on a 13-year-old. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more shocking, Jay-Z is now doing something that has everyone's jaws on the floor. He's actually trying to force Jane Doe to reveal herself to the public. The audacity of this man. Can you even believe it? While this drama is unfolding like a soap opera on steroids, family members are taking sides faster than kids picking teams for dodgeball. And let me tell you about Miss Solange's position in all of this. Baby, her absence at Blues Mufasa premiere is speaking volumes. And I mean, it's screaming from the rooftops. People are connecting dots faster than a kindergarten activity book, and trust me, these connections are painting a picture. But hold on to your wigs, because what's really got everyone gasping for air is this alleged list that's surfacing. A list of people Jay supposedly hooked up with when they weren't of age. And when I tell you this tea is dark, I mean it's darker than a moonless night in the countryside. Now, these court documents, honey, they're wild. They're basically saying Jay-Z wasn't just standing on the sidelines watching the game, he was fully in it. The exact words in the filing will have you clutching your pearls so tight they might turn to diamonds. Mr. Combs believes he is above the law. He is not. His close friend Sean Carter has been with Combs during many such instances described herein. Both perpetrators must face justice. And you know what's sending shivers down everyone's spine like a ghost in a haunted house? The streets have apparently been whispering about this for years. These weren't just whispers in the wind, they were warnings that nobody wanted to hear. But now it's all coming to light like sunrise after the longest night. But don't think for a second that Jay-Z is taking this lying down like a lazy cat on a Sunday afternoon. No ma'am, he came out with a statement that had everyone's phones buzzing like a beehive. He dragged Tony Busby, the lawyer who filed the lawsuit, so hard you'd think he was training for the Olympics. Jay said Tony made a terrible mistake thinking all celebrities are the same bunch of grapes, and listened to this clapback that had everyone shook. My heart and support goes out to true affected people in the world who have to watch how their life story is dressed in costume for profitability by this ambulance chaser in a cheap suit.
Right into how did the two of the biggest names in music even meet?
Well, we met a long time ago. Award shows, a lot of different performances.
And at what point did the conversation come, hey, do you want to do some music?
You know how people, you see each other and you respect each other's music. You know, it's always that conversation, we got to do something. You know that.
Right.
The time filler.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When that time filler turns into something real, then it's...
And the drama didn't stop there, honey. Jay-Z went in like a surgeon with a scalpel, saying this lawyer had totally miscalculated thinking the nature of these allegations and public scrutiny would make him want to settle. But Jay-Z was like, no sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. He even brought up his Brooklyn roots like a badge of honor, saying, I'm not from your world. I'm a young man who made it out of the projects of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. We have very strict codes and honor. Now let me spill this scalding tea about Solange, because this is where things get juicier than a steakhouse on Sunday. This queen has always been protective of Beyoncé like a mama bear with her cub, and we all remember that infamous elevator moment in 2014 that had the internet breaking faster than a glass house in an earthquake. When TMZ dropped that footage of Solange going off on Jay-Z in that elevator, everyone and their mama was trying to figure out what caused such a reaction. And while they never officially spilled what caused it, we all had our suspicions about Jay's extracurricular activities. I mean, he later admitted to being unfaithful, and Beyoncé gave us a whole Lemonade album about it. And when I say whole album, I mean she put that man's business on blast like a Times Square billboard. But wait, because Solange's protective streak goes deeper than the Mariana Trench. There was even a time when she almost called the police on their own father because she thought he might hurt Beyoncé. That's the kind of sister love we're talking about. The ride or die, take no prisoners kind. But in the last few years, things have gotten stranger than a $3 bill. Word on the street, and when I say street, I mean multiple streets, boulevards, and avenues, is that Solange has been trying to get Beyoncé away from Jay-Z like she's trying to save her from a sinking ship.
I want to thank God for protecting me
Thank you, God. I'd like to thank my Uncle Johnny, who's not here, but he's here in spirit. I'd like to thank my parents, my father, my mother, for loving me and pushing me. I'd like to thank my beautiful husband, my beautiful 3 children who are at home watching. I'd like to thank the queer community for your love and for inventing this genre. God bless you.
And the plot just keeps thickening like molasses in December. An insider dropped some piping hot tea that had everyone's tongues burning, saying, "We all thought it was odd that Solange wasn't part of Beyoncé's new album. It's the kind of sound that's right up Solange's alley." But that's not even the gag that'll have you gagging. Solange didn't post a single tweet or Instagram post supporting Renaissance. Not one, nada, zilch, zero. The source spilled even more tea, saying, "I think it's weird for her not to be out supporting Bey. They took a chance on her latest album, Renaissance, and she actually needed everyone to support it to propel it to being the hit." Now, let's dive into these allegations about Jay-Z's past, because Chile, it's a whole situation that's messier than a food fight at a wedding. Around 2012, there were whispers louder than a heavy metal concert about Jay having a 15-year-old mistress who was allegedly 4 months pregnant but had the pregnancy terminated. The streets were saying this affair had been going on for a whole year, since she was 14, and she was from Brooklyn and Hispanic. The tea was so hot, it was burning everyone's tongues. And that's just the appetizer in this 5-course meal of scandal. There's the whole Foxy Brown situation. Allegedly, she was also 15 when things started happening with Jay-Z. Then there's this whole situation with Rymir, who's been trying to get Jay-Z to take a paternity test longer than some people have been alive. But apparently, Jay won't agree because it might prove he hooked up with Rymir's mom, Wanda, when she wasn't of age. Even Wanda's godmother spilled some tea about this in an interview that had everyone's eyes popping out like cartoon characters. But the tea that hits closest to home for Solange? It's about Beyoncé herself, and this tea is hotter than a summer sidewalk in Texas. Back in 2008, Bey said she was 18 when she met Jay-Z, and they started dating a year later when she was 19. But honey, the streets are singing a completely different tune. People who were around back then have always claimed that Jay-Z might have started hitting on Beyoncé much earlier, and apparently, this is something Solange knows about too.
Victims potentially, do you think there could be?
Thousands. Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself. I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
Keeping
Ford?
people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. And everyone knows it. The wiretapping of the phones, putting air tag on children during visits. These are normal practices that these people do.
Now, let's talk about these recent developments that have everyone's group chats exploding like fireworks on the 4th of July. Solange wasn't even at the Mufasa premiere to support Blue, and people are saying it's because she's more bothered than a bee in a jar about all these connections. Sources are spilling that she tried harder than a math student during finals to get Bey out of the marriage with Jay-Z because he was the link to Diddy, and she knew that Beyoncé would one day be roped into the crimes, which is exactly what's happening now, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And speaking of crimes, let me tell you about what Cassie's original lawsuit allegedly contained. A close source dropped this bomb that had everyone's jaws on the floor. I want to put you on notice about some more info that is coming out from the original 60-page lawsuit that Cassie and her lawyers initially filed against Diddy. So it's been said that Jay-Z and Beyoncé were implicated in the lawsuit for witnessing Diddy and push her down at one of Diddy's parties. The location and date weren't given due to privacy issues, but chilly, the implications are heavier than a lead blanket. And just when you thought this couldn't get any messier than a finger painting session with toddlers, Jaguar Wright came out with claims that would make a soap opera writer blush. She's saying Jay-Z and Beyonce are out here keeping people against their will, putting them on planes while they're unconscious to illegally transport them across borders. I mean, can you even process this information without your brain short-circuiting? But wait, because there's more tea to spill. Rihanna's former publicist Jonathan came through with some information that would make Boston Harbor look like a kiddie pool. He claims federal agents who were keeping tabs on Jay-Z actually stopped him like something out of a crime thriller. According to Jonathan, they pulled him into this makeshift interrogation room that probably looked like something out of Law and Order and started grilling him about Jay-Z allegedly being involved with Rihanna before she turned 18 and illegally transporting her across international borders. And apparently, she wasn't the only one. There were allegedly many others in this twisted tale. And now we've got this whole lawsuit claiming Jay-Z forced himself on a 13-year-old. The sources are saying Solange is just done with all these allegations, like a turkey after Thanksgiving. And deep down, she wishes her sister wasn't caught up in any of it. But can you blame her? This is heavier than a ton of bricks dropped from the Empire State Building. So what do y'all think? Did all these allegations cause the rift between Solange and Beyonce that's wider than the Grand Canyon? Is this why she's been keeping her distance? Especially when Jay-Z is around, like she's avoiding the plague? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this story is messier than a Jackson Pollock painting, and it's far from over. Keep watching this space because you know there's more tea coming, and when it does, I'll be right here to spill it all like a waiter with butterfingers.